Honors values our next speaker, Allyson.
Hey, everybody. What a great day, and I am so honored and grateful to be a mom and a Delaware citizen and a citizen of this great country, and I'm happy to speak to you today. Thanks for taking just the time out of your day to come down here and support what's going on and support our Constitution and the fact that we are taxed enough already. Can you all say that with me? We are taxed enough already. So in the next few minutes, I'd just like to encourage you to keep up the work that you're doing. In 1776, our founders signed the Declaration of Independence with one quill pen. Our current president used 22 commemorative pens to sign the health care bill into law. Each pen cost $135. That is $2,970 for 22 pens. Now, I think, what could you do with $2,900? $2,900? What could you do? You know, for just the one pen, $135, I could feed my entire 5-people family for 1 week. So when Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, he reportedly used more than 75 pens. Now, not all presidents have used the taxpayer money for pens, and that's not the point. The point is the wasteful spending, the lack of honor towards our tax money, the misuse of your money and my money for frivolous deals and paybacks. For me, I'm a work-from-home mom, independent contractor, and I think to myself, are they crazy? Are they? Our country is in a recession, unemployment is high, and you are spending $135 for a stupid pen. Not a week's worth of groceries for a person in need, but a pen. Better yet, don't take my tax money at all. And let me buy the pen for you if I can. And let me buy the groceries for my neighbor in need. Like many of you, it's been an eye-opening year since last we met here at this site. How many of you were there last year? Okay, it was rainy, it was cold, it was miserable, and I sure wasn't sure I should be there. And I was not involved. But I just knew that after reading 383 pages of the stimulus bill myself and understood somewhat what they were saying, and Tim Geithner being approved as the Treasury Secretary was enough to get me a little bit stirred up. See, I finished my taxes last night, and in our family we've got a lot of forms. And I actually read the tax code. I'm one of those kind of people. And I read the rules as it applies to each and every question that they ask you. And I think to myself, shouldn't the Treasury Secretary of the United States of America be able to do the same? Yes. So, since last April, I joined with you in our persistent encouragement to our congressmen and statesmen to get serious about fiscal responsibility. I wrote to Carper, Kaufman, and Carper in Congress, and Castle, sorry, Carper, Kaufman, and Castle in Congress. And that's a lot of k sounds, which means there's a lot of k in Congress. So, I can't say that because kids are here. So, I told them in my letter that they should take a firm lesson from a coalition of moms who live on a one-income budget in a horrible recession to see how balancing a budget is actually done. I didn't get much response. So it was then I began to dig into my own family history and our country's, and I discovered that my ancestors actually fought in the Revolutionary War. It blew my mind. And then I went a little further back, and I have ancestors from the first Mayflower. And I figured I better find out what kind of backbone they had that I was certainly missing in regard to standing up for our Constitution. That was enough to begin making our country's future a priority in my life, and it was during that discovery that I found the group Founders Values, which seeks to educate Delawareans in regards to the founding of our great republic. In my studies, I came across the most awesome battle, the Battle of Trenton. When I went to Brandywine High School, I think it was a paragraph in my history book. So I picked up the book, The Real George Washington, and I actually really read about that battle. And it was incredibly strengthening to me. And I'd like to share it with you briefly. The following parts of the story that I'm about to share with you are compiled from excerpts from the book The Real George Washington by Perry and Allyson, and a speech that Newt Gingrich gave at a CPAC conference. I encourage you to listen and receive strength from the heroic sacrifices that these soldiers made for us so that we could be free today. So take a deep breath. This is kind of like your entertainment part. And in your imagination, enter into winter, late 1776. The American Army has consistently been beaten. From September in Brooklyn, across New York and New Jersey, it has shrunk through enlistments expiring and a desertion from 30,000 soldiers to 2,500 effectives. 1/3 who don't have boots. They literally are wearing burlap wrapped around their feet. General Washington is faced with a reality that if he doesn't win a victory somewhere, the army is going to disappear. So General Washington holds his council of war. And so here's Washington. His generals are all completely worried what he's thinking. And his plan is to come up. And he says, we are going to have 3 units cross the Delaware River in ice at night during a snowstorm to converge at Trenton to surprise the professional Germans called Hessians. And we are going to capture them and have a big victory, and things are going to get better. And all of his generals were very timid, and they were going, this is a really big risk. And Washington finally says, look, if we don't win a victory soon, this army will disappear in 2 more weeks, and when it disappears, we will have lost, and when we have lost, they are going to hang us. So nobody in this room has anything at risk. So unknown to Washington, 2 units did not make it across the river. Only his did. They then marched 9 miles in the night during a snowstorm so severe. And this is one of the moments when God intervenes. The snowstorm is so bad, they're tempted not to continue because they have to go through 2 ravines they hadn't planned on and carry cannons, carry them down an icy hill, across a frozen stream, back up another hill, and another mile later do the exact same thing. One officer scribbled in his journal on the march. He said, quote, "It is fearfully cold and raw, and a snowstorm is settling in. The wind, it beats in the faces of the men. It will be a terrible night for the soldiers who have no shoes." End quote. Jagged ice that night cut through worn-out shoes and threadbare stockings. The next day, Major James Wilkinson, coming from behind, could follow their route to Trenton because of the bloodstains in the snow. But the very same snowstorm has convinced the Hessians that nobody could possibly be out. And so they pulled all of their guards in, and they were sitting around this fire thinking it was so terrible outside. Nobody would ever possibly be out there. Plus, it's Christmas Eve, and who would attack during a blustering snowstorm at Christmas? Well, at 8 o'clock in the morning, Lieutenant James Monroe led the Virginia charge, sprinting towards fiery cannons. He was severely wounded, and had a doctor not been present, Monroe, who became our 5th president, most likely would have died. Despite incredible odds, the victory was ours on Christmas Day in 1776. Woo! Thank you, God. That morning, nearly 1,000 Hessians, the German professional soldiers, were captured. 115 were killed. 4 Americans were wounded. Just 4. Not a single American was lost in battle. Although through the fierce night before, on the march, 2 tragically froze to death.